And welcome back to RJB Starcraft Cast, where I bring you, hopefully, the best replays in all of Starcraft fastest map in the world. Although today we have a game between players of a little bit of a lower level than the ones I usually cast. But as the last game had proven, lower level players compared to what I usually cast doesn't necessarily mean that they will produce a lower quality game, and I quite enjoyed the last game. It wasn't very high technical stuff or very micro heavy, but it was smart stuff. Smart stuff that mostly ended up working in the favor of C+, and in the disadvantage of Lover Magic. Lover Magic made some very small micro mistakes. Mistakes that maybe a player of a way higher level would not make, but he did all the things technically correct. His strategy was correct, his build was correct, the units he chose were correct. He was pretty quick on rebuilding that front that he has, the choke. He kept rebuilding it just in time to prevent C+ from getting in there. But it was not enough. The front got broken, he lost his SCVs, got dropped pretty hard, kept losing units all around. C+ just kept chipping away at Lover Magic, and although the chipping away was very small, Lover Magic was unable to keep adding on to his base quick enough. He ended up going down. Eventually, score is 1-0 for C+. Lover Magic is hurting, but I believe that he might be able to pull off a comeback game this time around. He starts off with 2 barracks and a gas, the same as last time around. He's not one of those 3 barrack guys. He goes for the 2 barracks, and this time there will be no pylon blocking access to his gas, so he might be able to go on the offensive very early on into the game, because C+ is starting off with a single nexus, a gateway, and quite an early choke, because he has the forge just finishing up, Pan in the front about to finish up as well. He's got minerals for a single cannon. Cannon is going to come thrown down. He's going to go on the scouting spree, scouting adventure for little Proby. Probe moving out. He might spot out that SCV soon. Lover Magic knows that there should be a pylon in the choke, so he sees the pylon. Sees that there's no pylon, sees the probe. Now he knows that C+ should be somewhere around this area right here. Scouts the front, gets the SCV in before the cannon finishes. Academy already being constructed for Lover Magic. Coming from 2 barracks, and a 3rd nexus has been thrown down for C+. That's a very, very greedy build. And it will all come down to what Lover Magic is now planning on doing. I assume C+ will be able to get up more cannons in his front before Lover Magic can take down that first cannon there. But as of now, he's still being very greedy, added on a cybernetics core. And this is the downside of going for 2 barracks. You cannot really go on the offensive, because the marine count is just very low. Like, he doesn't have an option. He can go and stack all those SCVs and attack the cannon there in the front and take focus away from the Marines. Marines will then be able to walk in, take down these other 2 cannons while they're being warped in, and then go on the offensive. But that is a very high risk, very high variance move that I don't really like to see all that often, because it's either it works or it fails and you die instantly and the game winds up being very short. And you can't really call it a victory for the Protoss, because it's kind of like, he kind of threw the game away. Anyway, C+ is going for a different strategy this time around, or so I hope, because there's a robotic facility before the Citadel of Adun, and usually getting that robotics down before the Citadel of Adun implies they're going for reavers or drops, but he might just throw a curveball and go for Dark Templars nonetheless. 2 command centers also being thrown down for Lover Magic, so he will be able to bump SCVs from 2 command centers as well. So the economy should be booming up right about the same time, although C+ already has both of his +1 nexuses finished up. So the economy will be in a little bit of a lead over Lover Magic, but Lover Magic is fully aware of this. He can formulate an answer. Dragoon comes out. Oh, Jesus. I had a hiccup. Dragoon comes out to kill the SCV and stop Lover Magic from getting information. Lover Magic is now adding on a factory, adding on another barrack. There's 2 scans out there. One is finished, the other one is still being built. There's energy for a scan, but he doesn't need to scan just yet because he just has information from the SCV. So he's saving that for just a little while longer. Because there is a robotic support bay and there is a Templar's archive. So in fact, C+ might once again be going for the very same move of making Dark Templars and dropping them inside the base of Lover Magic. But Lover Magic is now planning on going on the offensive because he's got a couple of Marines here with medics. And Stim is ready. But there's definitely not enough Marines to kill those cannons. He immediately pulls back, seeing that there's 3 cannons and a Zealot. So he just decides to stand there in the front to prevent anything from leaving the base. More cannons being thrown down for C+. A couple of pilots as well. Making sure he won't die to a frontal attack. Because C+ does not know at which stage in his build or what build Lover Magic is doing specifically. And that is the advantage Lover Magic has at the moment over C+. And that is knowledge of what the opponent is doing exactly. And these scans will be thrown down very soon, although now he's saving up those scans for Dark Templars, I am sure. But there's no Dark Templars coming out for C+. C+ is immediately going for the Storm and the High Templars. And Reaver as well. So first he's going to try it with a Reaver drop. The turrets are already being thrown up on the sides for Lover Magic, so he has prepared himself adequately, if I were to pick words to describe how he is preparing himself. There are no Marines there on the side though. And the shuttle will definitely be able to unload here on the side. And probably kill those turrets down here. Maybe kill some Marines as well. Because that's what Scarabs are really good at, killing Marines once they're clumped up. The shuttle comes flying in. Shuttle doesn't get unloaded, it flies in all the way. Flies in next to the SCVs. But he does get a decent shot off, killing 5 SCVs. Maybe 4, maybe less. So good reaction from Lover Magic for pulling his SCVs off of his minerals. Keeping them alive and extending the game. Staying alive. Making sure he's not falling. C+ now adding on more gateways. And a Stargate for Corsairs. Second drop is being loaded up here. Or is in the process of being loaded up. Is yet to be loaded up. He's not loading it up just yet. So that means a couple bit more time for Lover Magic. I honestly would have loved to see C+ take down these turrets down here, so he could fly in that second drop, but instead he chose to go for the SCVs, which I think was a little bit greedy. Sometimes you have to set up for something. He didn't decide to set up. But now there are more turrets down here on the bottom side of the base for Lover Magic, and more Marines and tanks on the main command center. So it will all come down whether Lover Magic will be able to pull off his SCVs in time, because there's 3 Templars in there and 5 Zealots. Those 5 Zealots will definitely be able to clean up a couple of Marines, but it mostly comes down to the Storms. Drop comes flying in, Drop flies in all the way, and he gets a decent Storm off on those SCVs, but most of the SCVs managed to get out alive. There was more. Ooh, that was a very close shot. He almost killed his own SCVs there, but he winds up killing only a single SCV with the splash damage from the tank. Ooh, close call. Very close call. Zealot was right next to the SCVs. Got focused down by the tanks. Could have been the end for Lover Magic, but Lover Magic ends up being very lucky. Loses only a single SCV to the tank splash damage. And this time around, C+ is building his base way quicker than last time around. He's already got a fleet beacon. He's already researching interceptor capacity. Or is it called carrier capacity? It's called carrier capacity. But it's to make extra interceptors. So he's definitely going for carriers because already recent carrier upgrades. But now Drop comes flying in once again. But there's more units there to intercept it. And nothing makes it through. Gets a single Storm off on 3 Marines, so at least he gets something out of it. But in total, the end result of that drop was pretty much nothing gained at all. The only upside is that Lover Magic is pretty far behind compared to where C+ is. Despite having 2 extra command centers, he's still relatively small. Even for at this point into the game. Lover Magic might be able to deal some damage with those carriers he's got coming out, but he needs more Stargates. More Stargates are now being finished and warping in. So you can start ramping up that carrier production, but his gas is quite low. Though he almost has all the geysers covered. So that will be taken care of really, really soon. right? Corsairs is escorting the drop. Shuttles come in over the weak side, but they both go down before they can get into the range of the SCVs. A single Templar managed to get out, but it doesn't get a storm off because it immediately goes down because there's no zealots on the ground. So good stim work from Lover Magic immediately responding. It's all because this engineering bay was hovering there so you could see it flying in. But it was kind of lucky because if he had chosen this path, a path a little bit more away from the engineering bay, he might have not have been able to respond that quickly and take down the shuttles. But he managed to take them down. And an Arbiter Tribunal has been finished, so Arbiters are also on the way. He's researching stasis. So C+ is this time around playing a way more technical Protoss. He's not planning on sending in streams of units. Instead he's planning on using carriers and Arbiter stasis and drops all in conjunction. All complementing each other. All meant to distract Lover Magic from one or the other. Drop comes flying in, Marines stim, Marines focusing on the shuttles, a single shuttle makes it through, 2 shuttles make it through in fact, but the shuttles are filled with zealots. He just got a storm off on those tanks there, but the SCVs were all brought to safety, even though they didn't have to be. Ooh, a drop comes flying in from the other side as well, and this time he gets a beautiful storm off and he kills 30 SCVs that belong to Lover Magic. The drop came flying in. Well, actually, it didn't come flying in. It was one of the shuttles that was still around here. So I was wrong. One of those shuttles that was still hanging around here flew up a little bit, flew back in, and there were Templars in there. So I didn't miss a drop. In fact, I thought I missed one because it was coming from the top. But I should have just paid attention a little bit more. I assumed all of them were emptied right here. And he extends. C+ buys himself enough time to get those carriers up and running without there being a counter answer to those carriers because there are only 2 starports out for Lover Magic and he has 3 factories. He's still very, very small. His gas is also very low. He does have 8 Valkyries, but those 8 Valkyries will not be enough to fight against those carriers. A scan comes out, so he knows that the carriers are on the way because he saw the carriers with the scan. He saw the Arbiter as well. So he knows carriers are inbound. Drop. I think he saw the drop leave as well. Drop now comes flying in once again over the southwest of the base, but they fly right into the Valkyries. Valkyries taking their shots off on the shuttles, but Templars do get unloaded. Templars get a storm off on top of those Marines. Now we got a storm off on the mineral patch as well, killing 18 SCVs. I thought he pulled all of the SCVs off, but he still had a couple of unkeyed SCVs right on there. And he gets reset back to the 50 SCV mark, just as he got reset to the 50 SCV mark a little bit earlier. And once again, he's slowed down. He will not be able to formulate an answer to those carriers. This is a very painful situation for Lover Magic to be in. You know what's going to come, but you also know you will not be able to formulate the answer required to face off against the question. And the question at this time is, carriers, will you be able to deal with them? Or will they be your untimely demise? More carriers finishing up. Unlike most players that we see, he is just going for a huge amount of carriers instead of mixing it up. Like 458, for example, goes for 10 or 12 carriers. But C+ is going for about 15, 16, maybe 17. Maybe he's adding on even more. He's got 7 finished, 8 finished, 7 more are on the way. So this should be about 15. He might add more into the mix later on into the game. But I assume he still wants to go for drops as well. So he might not be able to max out his carriers into 24 carriers. Or into 20 carriers. But 50 carriers is enough in this specific situation. Because as I mentioned earlier, Lover Magic does not have an answer to those carriers. He stims Marines down on the bottom side, but the Marines get stasis immediately. So those interceptors are more or less safe. He's taking down those turrets there on the low ground. Vessel comes flying in. Vessel tries to get an EMP off. Vessel gets the EMP off. So all these... well, half of these carriers have lost their shield. He didn't get the EMP off right in the middle. Arbiter comes back. Comes in. There's enough energy on that Arbiter for 2 stasises. And Lover Magic just immediately goes for the command center, I guess. He stasis on the Valkyries. Beautiful stasis. And now there's nothing there to take down interceptors or take down the carriers. The command center almost... Yes, the command center goes down eventually in the end, despite the repairing efforts. Now another stasis comes down on the SCVs. This is really smart play from C+. Completely incapacitating Lover Magic with stasises. So you can pull off this command center snipe. Most of the carriers make it out alive. I think all the carriers made it out alive, in fact. Well, there's one carrier still stasis in there, so that's the one that has been forsaken. Goliaths have come out, but there's no range upgrade on the Goliaths. It is still being researched, only 5 seconds away from finishing up. And there's an Arbiter still there with 200 energy, so he might go back in and stasis those Valkyries. He gets the stasis off on most of the Valkyries, but the Arbiter in the end does go down, so no stasis extension on the SCVs. But Lover Magic unable to really harvest enough minerals while those SCVs were stasis. Does not have sufficient units to fight this off, and the third Arbiter has come in, and it gets the stasis off on those Marine, on his SCVs. SCVs now all locked up, only a single SCV still mining minerals. I think this is the end for Lover Magic. Lover Magic will have to call the GG here, and he winds up going down to really smart carrier Arbiter play from C+. That Lover Magic was unable to formulate an answer for because he lost so many units and SCVs to those drops. And that is why it's essential to be really good at defending against drops, because boy, if you're not good at defending against drops, you're going to be in for a world of hurt. Lover Magic calls the GG, leaves the game. C+ comes out on top. Once again, it's 2-0 for C+. And I wonder whether Lover Magic will be able to pull off a single win against C+, or whether C+, despite having the lower APM, having the way better game plan in terms of execution. Although I also have to add that playing Protoss is a little bit easier than playing Terran. Defending as Terran is a little bit tough, a little bit difficult. And all it takes is a couple of good drops from Protoss to take you down, because there's not much you can answer back. Unless you're like one of like JH, who goes for tank drops no matter what the situation is. Always sends in tank drops. Same for Libagu and Dukkha. And maybe that's the thing that sets the most players apart. Being able to counter attack while being under pressure yourself. So dealing with pressure, counter pressure, staying alive, building up, having answers ready to the aggression from your opponent. But C+ comes out on top. Fun game. Time for game number 3. Hope you enjoyed this one. I kind of enjoyed it. Learned a couple of small things from it that I can apply in my own play. As the Protoss specifically, not as a Terran. It's pretty much a standard Terran. And goodbye. See you for game number 3.